So, looking at your life right now, would you say that you are thoughtful about how you're living? Or would you say that maybe you're very busy and you are kind of just doing everything that you know you have to do, not really thinking about what you should be doing or about the future? When my husband was in Afghanistan, I had one child in elementary school and one child that had just started junior high. And I would say that year, I was just surviving. I was only home one evening out of the whole week. I was teaching 2 nights a week. We had ball games and practices the other nights of the week. We had ball games and practices the other nights of the week. And then we had to do homework and get everything done during the day that we needed to do. And I just was making sure that I could get everything done in a day. That's all my real goal was. And I don't know how much I was really teaching my kids. I know I wasn't thinking about the future at all. Honestly, I wish that was the only time that that happened to me, but I have done that a lot of times in my life. And maybe you have done that also. Maybe you're doing that right now. But today, I want us to talk about how short our lives are because we don't want to waste them. We don't want to be just going through the motions. We don't want to be just trying to survive. We don't want to look back at the end of our time with our kids living at home or at the end of our lives and say, I wish I had more time. There's so many things I wanted to do that I didn't do. Specifically for me, I know that when my kids were close to graduation, close to moving out of my house, I was kind of panicking, did I prepare them to move out and do this life on their own without me there every minute? I should have been thinking about that way before now. And I'm just hoping that I've done enough, right? And I just don't want to be in that situation at the very end of my life where I'm thinking, man, I wish I had done more. And then, especially with the Lord, am I doing what He wants me to do? Is what I'm doing here on this earth going to matter for Him? Or am I just going through the motions? Am I too busy to do the things that are actually important? And so these are the things that we're going to look at today as we reflect on Moses's life, and then as we read one of the songs that he wrote and reflect on our own. So this is the very last chapter of Deuteronomy. It's the end of Moses's life. So this is Deuteronomy 34. I'm going to read it from the New King James Version. And it says, Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jericho. And the Lord showed him all of the land of Gilead as far as Dan, all of Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, the south and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of the palm trees as far as Zoar. Then the Lord said to him, This is the land of which I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And God buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows where his grave is to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, and his natural vigor was not diminished. The children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab for 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses ended. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the children of Israel heeded him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. But since then, there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, in all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt, before Pharaoh, before all his servants, and in all his land, and by that mighty power and all the great terror which Moses performed in the sight of Israel. So, after his little bit of encouragement to them and the blessings that he gave them, then Moses left and he climbs Mount Nebo, which is in the Abiram mountain range. We talked about that in the last study when God told him he was about to die and go up to this mountain. And the peak of this mountain is called Pisgah. And so he is on the top of this mountain, which is directly across from Jericho, which is the city that they will conquer first whenever they enter the land. So he's standing across from that very first city, and God is showing him the land. I thought that was so interesting. He's not just standing up there on the mountain looking out onto the land. God is showing it to him, and you can tell how he's going through it in a very detailed manner, because he's saying, this is the land of Gilead as far as Dan. Dan is one of the tribes of Israel. So this is going to be Dan's land. And then this is going to be Ephraim's land. And this is going to be Manasseh's land. And the land of Judah as far as the western sea. So he's getting to see the sea. The south, the plains, the valley of Jericho, the city of the palm trees. All of these things Moses is getting to see. When the spies entered the land, there were 12 of those spies, and they entered the land, and they brought back a cluster of grapes that was so large it had to be carried on a pole between two men. And they told him that indeed this land was luscious and abundant, as God had told him. But Moses never seen the land himself. And so God is showing him, look, this is beautiful land. This is what I promised to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob to give to their descendants. And those people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they did get to see the land. But then Jacob went into Egypt with his 12 sons. And so those were the last people that got to see it. The 12 tribes of Israel, the original sons, they saw that land, and they're it. And it's been nearly 500 years since God promised this land to Abraham, and none of the people that were born in Egypt got to see this land. And Moses was one of those people born in Egypt. And so God is showing him, this is the beautiful land that I've been telling you about, that I've been preparing for y'all this entire time. And the promise is about to be fulfilled in these people that you've been leading all of this time. And so God's just showing it to him. And not only is he showing him what the land looks like, but he's saying, this is where this person's going to live. This is where this person's going to live. And Moses is getting to see what their land will look like and how they will be blessed, each one of them separately in this land. And so how wonderful is it that God shows him that? And then it says, after God shows him the land, he dies. And God himself buries Moses. And it says no one knows where Moses's grave is. Presumably this is because they don't want anyone to build a shrine to Moses, because he was their leader for all of these years, the most revered leader and prophet that they had had. And so God wants them to focus their eyes on him and not on Moses. And so he buries him himself. How sweet that is. And then it says that Moses was 120 years old, and his health was still good, and his eyesight was still good. So he wasn't dying because he was too old, his body was breaking down. He was dying now because his time had come. He had sinned by not presenting God as holy to the people. And so he wasn't going to get to continue to lead the people into the land. His time had come. And so he died there on the mountain. And then God himself buried him, and the people mourned for him for 30 days. And then they prepared to enter the promised land. And Moses had laid hands on Joshua and given him the Spirit of the Lord. And so Joshua was about to lead them into the promised land. But it says that there's never been a leader in Israel like Moses until Jesus. So what a wonderful life that Moses had. And we just want to pay tribute to him. We've spent 5 chapters of the Bible reading the words that he wrote. And 4 of those chapters have been his life. And so today we want to look back on his life and how wonderful it was. And I specifically just was thinking about how wonderful his death was, how gracious God was to him at the end of his life. The greatest death that I could think of would be this death that Moses got, because he got to say farewell to all of his people. He got to bless them each individually before he left. I hope I get to say goodbye to the people that I love and give them some parting words, each of them individually. And so if I live a good, long life, the only thing I'll be missing is whatever happens after I'm gone. I won't get to know how everything turns out for those that I leave behind. But Moses gets to see that too. And I think that's just so wonderful that God gave that to Moses. It just seems so sweet. He takes him up on the mountain and he gets to see, this is where this person's going to live, and this is where this person's going to live, and this is how their life is going to turn out. And if God were to show that to me, say, this is how your son's life is going to turn out. This is where he's going to live and raise his family and have his business. This is where your daughter is going to live and raise her family and work and have a joyous, blessed life. Even if he told me that things were going to be hard for them, if I could know some of the good things that are going to happen after I'm gone, and see even the children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren that I'm not going to get to see, that would be so wonderful. And God gives that to Moses. He doesn't get to see their children, but he gets to see where they're going to live and where they're going to flourish. And he gets to know that they're going to have blessings there. And he gets to see a bit of the blessings that they're going to have before they even get them. And so how wonderful it would be to be able to have that. And then for Moses to be able to say, I don't get to go into that land. And that is sad. Just like I won't get to be in that future that I'm missing out on, because just like Moses, there will be a time that all of us will go. That is just the nature of this life. We will not live forever here. And so it's sad that we will die one day and we will miss out on something that's happening here. But for Moses to know, I've prepared the people just as well as I can. God has given me the way for them to live well in this new land. God has instructed me on their government, on their religious life, on how they need to live amongst each other. And I've delivered that to them. I've prepared them for that as much as I possibly can. And also, I'm leaving them in good hands. I've prepared Joshua and I've anointed Joshua. And I know that Joshua hears the word of the Lord and that he will follow God and he will lead the people well. And so I'm leaving them in good hands. And that is what we all need to be doing as we are living on this earth. We need to know that we've lived this life well, that we are leaving our children and our grandchildren and maybe our business and whatever it is that we have built on this earth, that we're leaving it in good hands, that the things that we've done in this life matter, that they're important, that hopefully they're going to be lasting, that when we die, this isn't it for the people that we love, that that something we've done has mattered to them. And even if it doesn't matter to a wider, broader part of this world. And hopefully we have touched even more than just our immediate families. Hopefully something we have done matters to those that we've encountered, and it'll carry on. And so I think that's what this next song that Moses wrote in Psalm 90, I think that's what that's about, is to get us to reflect on our lives a little bit and say, are you going to be able to look back at your life? If you live a good long life, are you going to be able to look back and say, I did something that mattered to the people that are here? And more importantly, I did what God wanted me to do here. Everything that He had in mind for my life, I accomplished. I made every minute count. I wasn't just going through the motions, and I wasn't just trying to survive. I was doing the things that mattered to God and to man.